This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers.
Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, this is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. This is episode 51, if I'm not mistaken. And Happy New Year. Happy, you know what? I'll just say Happy New Year. I was going to try to represent some of the other ways that other religions, ethnicities celebrate, but I don't want to be disrespectful and mispronounce it. So I hope everyone had a great Christmas, a great New Year's. I hope you were able to, just relax, try to enjoy family, understand, what everything is. Oftentimes we forget about, the meaning or the true meaning. So hopefully everybody was relaxing. I know I relaxed on New Year's. When it comes to going out and stuff, I don't do it as much. I did it. I partied hard in my earlier years. Now I just, hey, the celebration for me is just trying to stay up to 12. If I can make it to 12, I'm pretty excited. And it wasn't a struggle this year to stay up to 12. It was interesting. It was interesting to watch TV, how the dogs, they over in our area, they're popping actual fireworks. They're not shooting off guns like they do in my neighborhood back at home, which is what, when I called, that's what they told me they were doing. But over here is actual fireworks, so I can confirm that they're fireworks. Well, a lot of them are fireworks. Some of them didn't sound like fireworks. But in any case, the dogs get skittish, so, we don't let them go outside as much. We don't really want to leave them alone because we don't want them to, panic and stuff. And it's a thing. It's a thing now. So it's not something that I really thought about or understood, before I had pets. But, now I have them. It's kind of traumatic for them. So glad we were able to, bring in the new year. I got my drink on with my, what was it, grape cider or grape seltzer or whatever it is. Look, for those of you that don't know me, I don't drink. I think I've mentioned it before. I don't drink. I've never drank. So, when I say these things, I'm having fun with it because, I actually had a little video I took of myself with a bottle, but it was Welch's grape seltzer bottle or something. Sparkling grape cider, I think is what it was. So I was bringing in the new year, getting full like I was drinking a 40. So let me start because there's a lot on my mind. And this episode represents one, that where the next one would be a year, 2024. And before I forget, I just love, and I need to say it one more time, I am going to miss saying 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if you don't understand what I mean, the 31st of December represented the numbers 12, 31, 23. So when you put them together, it was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I just had so much fun. I felt like a little 5-year-old kid running around the house saying 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It was stupid, but it was, for some reason, it just cracked me up every time I thought about it. So I'm gonna miss saying it, and apparently it will come around again in the year 21-23. So I'm excited to make it to the next 100 years so I can do it again. All right, so let's get back into what I wanted to discuss today. Things that are on my mind, things that interest me. Man, there was a lot. I hope you enjoyed the 2023 in review. The great Joseph, the producer, he put that together, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, go back, take a look at it. Had some of his favorite things, a couple of things that I enjoyed. We just tried to put together something small and give you a sense because we were off. So, all right, but let's start with this situation with bowl games. Now, I've heard, okay, so Georgia plays Florida State, beats them 63-3. Everybody's at arms because I think Florida State had between 20 and 29 players opt out. Now, some players opting out, getting ready for the transfer. Not transfer. Some players opting out to get ready for the draft. That's always been normal because they're trying to make sure, they don't get hurt. They're getting ready for all the stuff that they're going to be doing. It's a lot of paperwork and stuff. So, that's always been something that happens. Now, in football, it seems to happen a lot more during the bowl games, during that time. And in college basketball, you don't really hear about a player opting out before the NCAA tournament. It's usually after the tournament. Now, if they made the tournament, they participate. If they don't make it, then, maybe they opt out then because their season is over. But you rarely get that happening in college football. It happens before bowl games. So that's kind of been normal. Now, there were a number of players, they said, that opted out because they hit the transfer portal. One was their quarterback who transferred before the bowl game. So they were well on demand, and even if they were at full strength, as long as they didn't have their top quarterback who was hurt, I think Georgia was going to win that game. Now, if Florida State had their top quarterback and the whole players, I don't know. It could be a toss-up, but I think Georgia would have won that game regardless, but they really gave it to them. Now, Florida State did some unusual things. They talked like they were going to opt out of the bowl. They didn't show up for some stuff, and I think Georgia might have, took a little offense to it and really wanted to give it to them because of all of the stuff that happened with Florida State not making it and stuff. So it was a bad game if you was a Florida State fan. But here's what I want to talk about, because I know there was a lot of issues about players entering the transfer portal, and they were doing it, like, for instance, their quarterback. There are a lot of players that didn't play in their bowl games because they entered the transfer portal before the bowl games, which is weird. So you had people talking about that. You had people talking about the NIL money that these kids get. And, there was a question that was formed that I was like, well, that's interesting. Look, I'll put this out. I know my man Rod Strickland, shout out to him. We had a conversation on something like this, and it got heated between us. Not like we were going to fight, but, he was passionate about it. I don't think he understood my position at first, but then once he understood it, everything was good. But he was passionate about it, and this kind of touches on that subject. Now, I'm not for restricting, right? I don't want to restrict people from making decisions. I'm for making it to where it benefits everybody. So I'll give you an example. In all sports, mainly in NFL and football, a lot of times during the playoffs in football, teams start trying to hire coaches, head coaches, and stuff like that. And sometimes teams will offer a defensive or an offensive coordinator for a team that's still in the playoffs a job. And that coach will sometimes take it. Now, they finish out the year, but I think it would work better if you did it after the season, after they were playing. Because it's a distraction. It's an unnecessary distraction, And then now, those people who own the team and general managers, now they're trying to look for new people while they're still finishing the season. So yeah, it's great, but why not move it until after the Super Bowl? Not before, after the Super Bowl. So there's no discussion. Look, teams internally can start identifying people, but they don't need to kind of put that stuff out there. They wait until the season's over, and then they can start contacting. That way, everybody's doing what they're doing. Now, can you multitask? Absolutely. But I think it's kind of an unnecessary distraction. It's the same thing with bowls in college football. You will see coaches, you've seen coaches leave to take a new job before they finish playing their last game, which is the bowl game, right? And it's unnecessary. It's kind of odd because to me it's like, well, you want these kids to play the whole year. You know, we're family. This is what we do. We finish strong and everything. All of the stuff that you tell these kids, but then you turn around and take a job, lead those kids to go on and finish the season with an interim coach or something like that, right? Now the players are doing it. But now it's a problem because the players are doing it. I think you put it in writing for all involved. You do it one of two ways. Either you do it the way it's going now, where everybody's able to do stuff and some people are going to be happy, but hey, if it's got to be good for one, it's got to be good for the other. Or you tie everything and say no coach or player can enter the transfer portal, can take any type of job or put any information out there about said job until after the college football championship is over. If the game is over at 8, by 8:01, you can start announcing and calling these coaches and stuff, and coaches can start taking games. By 8:01, players can now enter the transfer portals and stuff like that. I think it's only fair. If you're going to do it for one, you got to do it for both. Now, as far as the NIL money, you know, somebody said, hey, if you're going to pay somebody, so many millions of dollars to be at that program, maybe make them finish out until their last game. So if they don't make a bowl game, then, hey, they still get their money. But if they make a bowl game, they need to play at that bowl game to finish getting their money. It's kind of like playoff contracts, or professional contracts, right? Now, if it's deemed to be something unnecessary on kids, then, yeah, let's not do it. But I think there's a sensible way to do it for everybody involved to where it's fair, because you got so many bowl games. You got bowl games upon bowl games, and there's some bad bowl games. And I personally think that they maybe should start not getting rid of, but you're rewarding mediocrity when you have teams that won they were 6-6, or 7-6. I want to say there was a team that was 5-7 that got invited to a bowl game, but it was mainly because that bowl game was in their backyard. So it's like that's like I don't care if y'all end up 1-12 or 1-11, you're gonna be playing in the bowl game because we got a bowl game for us. It's kind of so. Next year everything's gonna be better because we're gonna have 12 teams. So you're gonna have a lot more excitement with a lot more teams' opportunity to actually win. And you could have a few other bowls because there's some really good bowls, but the selection process with some of these bowls, man, everybody knew that Liberty was gonna get smacked by Oregon. That was a bad matchup. I don't know. I get it. Liberty won Conference USA. They were undefeated. They were ranked 20-something or maybe 11th or 12th or something. But they weren't going to match up well with Oregon. So, I don't want to see those games. I want to see good matchups. Now, if you get two good teams and one smacks the hell out of the other, hey, nothing you can do. They were ready to play. But at least I want to know coming in that, I might be entertained until maybe the third quarter unless something catastrophic happens. But when you look at a game like, we know how this game's not going to go well. That's not something that I want to see. But I think if they did something like that, it would help, And going into that, I want to say I think now at this time, my question is it more about the future for kids' pro career? Have we made it more about the individual than about the team? Now, I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong. I'm just asking it because that's what it seems like. That's what it seems like we are. Because now with NIL money, you're having kids to they enter the transfer portal because they figure, hey, I can go to this school. This school's going to give me more money, right? Not thinking about, hey, maybe that offensive lineman who was blocking the hell and keeping these guys from tackling me, sacking me, was part of this deal and, stuff like that. Maybe that receiver that caught that ball that I threw kind of bad and fought that DB off to get it, maybe he has a little bit more. I'm not trying to be a holier than thou person. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just posing the question because in the past few years, things are different. And if this is where we are, this is where we are. If this is where we are, hey, I'm cool with it either way. But I think we need to stop, trying to make it seem like it was yesterday. You got to be there for your team. Yeah, okay, I get it. But some people aren't built like that. Some people, it's about them, right? Some people, it's about team. And unfortunately, to me, you kind of have to be okay with it, but you got to take the good with the bad. You got to take the good with the bad. If your team turns on you because they see that you're about yourself, you got to own it. You got to own it. It's like, what was that? Any Given Sunday. When Jamie Foxx's character, you could tell he was just so big-headed. Well, his own lineman in his offense stopped playing for him, and he was getting his ass tossed in the back. Not the back. Man, that sounded weird. He was getting tackled and sacked a lot because they weren't even blocking for him. So it's one of those things to where he had to learn that it's about his team, and once he learned about it's his team, he's part of a team. Everybody makes everything go. They do their job. That's what makes a team special. So I hope we're not going to have any Willie Beemans out there coming up, but there's always going to be some. Some people have to learn the hard way. Let me move on. Now, in doing all of this and watching some of that Florida State and some of these other lopsided games, I started wondering, man, how do you deal with it when the score is out of hand in a lopsided game? Not towards the end. So, look, let me paint a picture. If, let's say you're playing a game and you're down maybe a touchdown, maybe 10 points, maybe 14 points going into the fourth quarter, right? And you still have a chance. All you have to do is score, game tightens up, you can make a play here or go. So a 14-point lead isn't absurd. With the way some of these offenses play, a 21 to 28-point lead, as long as you got enough time, is not hard to get with some offenses, right? So you go in the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden things spiral out of control. You're playing too hard. You're trying too hard. Boom, you fumble. You miss an assignment. Somebody scores. Now, next thing you know, midway through the fourth quarter, that 14-point lead is now a 28-point lead. You're not going to be able to catch them. You don't have enough time. The game is out of hand. It's lopsided. I can deal with that because you're still locked in and engaged. But when you are down 42 to nothing by the end of the first half, by the middle of the second quarter, you still have to go in that halftime. Coming out, I don't care what speech you give me, there is no way we're coming back to win this game. We're not equipped to it. We probably should just forfeit the rest of the game, but we can't. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with playing and looking at other team and just knowing that there's nothing you can do to make the situation any better? And the team that you're playing with knows it, and they're probably taking joy. They're probably running their mouth. They're probably making comments, and you got to sit there and take it and be professional or try to be professional. How do you deal with that? I'm just curious. This is not me saying, oh yeah, now here's how you deal with it. I'm just wondering because I felt so bad for some of these teams when they're losing by like this enormous score and the game is still early. I want to say Georgia was up 42-0, 49-0 or something by halftime, and then they ended up 63-3, right? Oregon, I believe they ended up winning 30 or 45-6, I think, something like that. But you knew that game was over in the first quarter. There was nothing Liberty could do. And Liberty looked enthusiastic when the game started. You could tell they went down and they scored. They were feeling it like, yeah, we're here. You know, they missed the extra point. Then Oregon really started to impose their will on them. By the end of that first quarter, you could almost look at some of those kids and say, yo, man, we're not going to be able to play with these boys, right? So I just wonder how people deal with it. I would, hey, give me a message or something. If you know somebody that had to go through that and they mention how they went through it, let me know. Because I'm just wondering, how do you deal with that stuff and stay sane? Because it's bad for you, and I always consider it. Okay, so let me touch on this Sean Payton, Russell Wilson deal. All right, so if you don't know, Sean Payton really wasn't a fan of Russell Wilson, and he's benched him in favor of somebody else. Their personalities don't align, and the way Sean coaches doesn't seem to align with the way Russ plays. Now, my question is, you knew that, okay, you didn't know when you got Russ that it was going to go as bad with Nathaniel Hackett as the head coach. You didn't know that, right? So you hired Sean Payton. Now, before you hired Sean Payton, you gave Russell Wilson all his money because he was, he's still considered a dynamic quarterback at the time. You bring in Sean Payton. I don't know how nobody knew that in the organization that it wasn't going to work schematically, that their thought process with running offenses didn't align. Russell Westbrook has always been the style of player that he's been. Back when he was in Wisconsin and all of his years at even before, I'm trying to think of where he was before Wisconsin, because he finished and he had another year of eligibility and he went to Wisconsin. But all in all, his whole career has been pretty much the same. There are little tweaks in there, but he's a guy that, he's going to drop back to pass a lot. He's going to want to hold on to the ball and make that deep throw, and he's going to use his legs to run around in the pocket and outside the pocket and scramble. That's what he's always been. Sean Payton has always been controlled. This is how I want to run the offense. He did it with Drew Brees. It was really quick timing passes, run the ball, control. He didn't want all of that running around trying to extend every single play. There's going to be a time where you got to scramble for a run and scramble and look down the field and you find something, but you don't do it every time. And that's kind of what Russ has been about. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's what made him who he was. So you got to respect it. How did they not know that this wasn't going to work? That's the crazy thing. And you paid him all of this money and you had all of these incentives and stuff. And now Sean is really just fed up with him. That's really what it boils down to. He don't want him. They're going to get rid of him, which is fine. But how did you not know that? When he came in, you should have been looking to move Russ then. That's what you should have been doing. Moving him for a team, get their draft picks, start with this quarterback that he tends to like, or maybe you get somebody in the draft that year and you start to build with that quarterback. But you kind of wasted a year of Sean Payton. You kind of wasted a year of Russell Wilson trying to make something work. And it's crazy because when I saw it I was like, man, that's not going to work. And my wife was like, well, why not? Because he's a good guy. I said, yeah, but schematically, they don't align with how they look at running offenses. And it looked like they both tried. I'll give them that. They both tried. It looks like they both tried to kind of adhere and work around some things and make some things work, and how the plays were called and how Russell was doing things. And at first it was bad, but this year Russell's played really good. Not elite, but he's played really good, definitely compared to last year. But now he's out. So I'm just trying to understand how that how you thought that was gonna work. And now Russ is gonna get that money. They're gonna be on the hook for it, and maybe they deserve to be on the hook of it. They got money to pass out, and you get $1 million, and you get $4 million and stuff. I sure hope they hire me to come dribble a basketball and then say, "Man, we thought you were back in your 20s. We didn't know you were in your 50s." Oh, that's fine. Well, I'm sorry you didn't really look at my resume and biography, but I want my money now. Yeah, like that'll happen. Okay, all right. Let me move on. I'm gonna touch on this Detroit versus Dallas. I watched the game, and I remember posting on my Facebook that I've never seen two really good teams play such good and bad football in the same game. Like almost play to play, quarter to quarter. It was good and then it was terrible. There were so many missed calls. There were pass interference. There was a missed call. They called tripping on somebody. There was a lot of holding. Offsides were and they weren't calling it. And there were a couple of pass plays there. It was just so evident that it was pass interference on both teams. It was a terribly officiated game. And then you get down to the play call at the end, and did he report? Didn't he report? And then you have people saying, well, it didn't matter because if he would have reported, if he would have said it, he was still illegal formation or something like that. Then I heard somebody else say, no, if they know he's reporting, it negates that. So it's weird because I heard one football guy say it didn't matter. It was going to be illegal. And then I heard other football people say, no, if he were reported, it wouldn't have been a legal formation or something like that. So I thought that was odd that you had two opposing, ex-football players and stuff that, had different interpretations. Maybe it was a rule change that one of the players had that he didn't know. I don't know, but I would definitely love to have the official clarification of it. But it was if watching what it was terrible with what happened, and it cost him. But that whole game was bad, and it leads me because we always talk about we got to hold the refs accountable, and I start thinking like, well, what do you do? What do you do? Because if we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it across the board, how do we hold players accountable when they're making mistakes in games? Are we docking them their money? Are we suspending them? Hey man, you missed this tackle and it caused our quarterback to get a concussion. Hey, you dropped 4 passes this game. We're gonna dock you a game check, right? How do you do it? How do you do it? And I say it because I know it needs to be something. I know that this referee crew for the Dallas, I think his referee was Allen, his crew for that Dallas-Detroit game is not going to be refereeing in the playoffs. They've been downgraded. But what came out of it is a lot of bad calls that you've seen throughout the year was from them. And the fact is, the sad part about it is that look, if I make a bad play and it cost us, yardage or something, I still kind of had the opportunity to come back and do something good. Referees aren't really allowed that. They can't. Well, actually, they do. I know it's an unwritten rule, but how many times have you seen a call and then the referee is kind of like, you can tell it's like they made the call, but it was a bad call. They come down, do it in basketball all the time. They come down and the other side and they make another call, and now they're going back the other way. It's like, okay, we messed up. We're going to make it right, right? How do you deal with it? How do you hold refs accountable? I'm still trying to figure it out. I mean, other than demoting them or something, but the damage is done. I really think with all technology and stuff, I know it could make the games go a little bit longer, but overall, you want to see the right thing called, right? A lot of stuff is subjective, but when you look on film, some of these plays are subjective. Now, if they looked on film, the head quarters comes in and they're, hey, we're gonna look at this and stuff, and then they look and they say, hey, it looks like he did come in and talk to you. Did you hear him? Did you hear 70 say something to you? And then he's looking and he might be able to say, you know what, I saw him running. I assume he was coming to report, although the word is out that all of this information was covered at the beginning of the game, pregame. But, maybe he thought that was going to happen, which is probably what happened. 68's talking to him. You know what? I think 68 did report. They can come back and say, you know what? After review, this happened. Now, Dallas is going to be upset, but it's the right call. Because you have calls overturned. Because the referee thought they saw something, they reviewed it, they looked, they came back, said, you know what? Yeah, he was in bounds, or he was out of bounds, or this and that. We need to have something, because the calls get out of hand when they're really bad, and I know referees are making calls and split decisions, so I get that as a fan. I'm just saying, hey, if you make that call and you're not 100% sure because you blew the whistle. But normally after you make that call, if you're still 100% sure, you're going to say, nope, that was out. Now, if you look at the replay and it's wrong, then now we need to talk to him about what he did. But if you're not sure, you should say, you know what, let's take a look at it. They need to do something. It's going to maybe add an extra 15 minutes to a game, depending on different calls and stuff. But the Florida game maybe get disrupted a little. But I'd rather watch a game that's extra long, being able to say, hey, the players decided, not the referees. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And I think, there needs to be something. Something needs to be done. I think maybe taking it, if you make a call and then headquarters sees something and they buzz down and they say, nope, you know what, we need to take a look at this or that. It shouldn't take but a second. If they see it, they're seeing something in slow motion that you saw in real time. It shouldn't take that long. Maybe they're sitting around talking about what they're going to do after the game, which is why it makes those discussions a little bit longer. I don't know. All right, now I want to get into something that has kind of been astonishing to me. I mean, I've kind of thought of it, but it's really bad now considering all the information that's out there. This is about low IQ fans. We talk about low IQ players. Let's talk about low IQ fans. What is a low IQ fan? It's a low IQ fan is somebody who is commenting on something that they don't understand. They've never taken the time to really understand what that game or what the game is about that they're watching, whether it be football or basketball or hockey or whatever it is. And they're watching it, and then they're coming on making these boneheaded discussions, without all information or knowledge. So let me give you an example. I was listening to, Give and Go. I think it's Give and Go on NBA Sirius XM. I hope they don't sue me for mentioning the name of their show. I'm giving them props. But it's one of my shows. Now, there are two guys on there. One of the guys I don't really care for because he's always, he says he's not, but he's always sensationalizing stuff. He's a fan. And the more he talks, the more I start to understand that he's just an analytical person. He doesn't really understand the game. The other person is an ex-basketball player. He played at a high level. He was a high draft pick. He won a championship. He now is not sideline. He's a color commentator for NBA team. He knows what he's talking about. I might not always agree with what he's saying or what he's coming from. Sometimes it's not a lot. It's every now and then. I might not always agree, but I know where he's coming from when he says it. And he's coming from an intelligent, hey, I played the game, I understand it, right? Well, somebody called on this show, and the person who called, I can't remember who Phoenix was playing. It might have been the Mavericks, when the Mavericks gave it to him. Luka hit 50. They slaughtered Phoenix. The guy called because he was upset that KD wasn't taking shots. It's like, well, he needs to be shooting the ball more. He's just kind of standing around and he's not earning what he needs. And I don't get it. It's frustrating because he's supposed to be this great player and he's not doing anything. You know, Allen was doing more. Allen was the one who was taking upon himself to score all of these points. And as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking to myself, man, did you watch the game or did you just pull up the highlights? Because I was actually watching the game because I know that there's history with Luka and Booker. They don't like each other, right? So anytime they're winning and anytime they can stick it to them, they're going to really enjoy it because they don't like each other. And I was watching what happened. And even if I didn't watch the game, I pretty much knew how Allen could end up with that many points. The reason is because Phoenix doesn't have any scores around Booker and KD. Bill is hurt, right? He was hurt that game. But you only have two legit scorers. The rest of those guys can't shoot, or make a basketball play. Allen can shoot, when he can shoot. Gordon can shoot, but they haven't been consistent. They're not threats. So what you do defensively is you say, man, if y'all can score, y'all can score. But we're going to take the ball out of these guys' hands. We're going to shade our defense towards them. We're going to take these two guys. They're going to still score because they're that great. But we're going to take the opportunities for them to score, a lot. And we're going to force you guys to shoot. We're picking, hey, either they're gonna score a lot of points and we're gonna shut everything else down, or we're gonna really stifle them and make them pass, and that somebody else is gonna be scoring a lot of points. And that's kind of what they did because they didn't. I feel bad saying this, it's weird, but they didn't really respect anybody else's scoring. So yeah, Allen, have at it. Score as many points as you want. KD's not gonna get that many shots up. KD understood it. He knows what they're doing. He didn't try to force anything. He went on a few, segments where he get him a few shots up, but he was trying to stay within the game plan. And that was frustrating because Phoenix doesn't have any firepower outside of them. Golden State, pretty much the same thing, man. Steph can hit his 40. They're going to win some games, but they're going to lose a lot because Clay's not consistent the way he's been. Wiggins isn't consistent. You don't have the guys scoring around him that you used to have that is a legitimate threat that when they come on the court, we got to find this guy. So this guy's just talking. So Antonio Daniels had to tell him, like, what are you talking about? Like, are you did you watch the game? Did you understand? So as he starts breaking everything down, this guy kind of gets quiet. And he was like, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, how do you now see what he's saying? You must have not paid attention, or you are a low IQ fan. There are tons of low IQ. I would say the percentage of low IQ fans versus high IQ fans is probably 3-1. I think there are more low IQ fans, and I get it. You're a fan. You like the team. You're exciting. You don't really know. That's fine. But don't try to call in and start trying to talk to people when it's obvious that you don't know what you're talking about. I try not to engage with people if I know they don't know what they're talking about. I actually had a discussion with somebody on Facebook about the Detroit Dallas game. He's like, he didn't even watch the game. He said he didn't watch the game. He watched highlights and he was like, why are they crying? Why is Detroit crying and this and that? And they knew it was illegal play and stuff. And I just had to tell him, like, man, apparently you didn't watch. You said you didn't watch it. Apparently you didn't see the replay. And he was, oh no, it's this and that and that. So I had to just kind of eloquently tell him what happened. Well, I'm going to need film. I'm going to need a link. So I sent him a link, right? Then he turns around and says, oh, I stand corrected. And I'm thinking to myself, have I ever just posted something where I'm just like talking out of my ass? Like, what would make you think I would just argue with you about something that I'm clearly watching? I'm clearly versed on. I know enough to know what was going on. And he was arguing with me. And then I joked around with him about it and stuff, but I was kind of like, yo, like, it's not a good look, because to me, if you trying to call me out or you trying to talk to me about something, had it on Twitter. Dude wanted to tell me I didn't know about my, I'm just putting out polls. I don't know. I ain't seen the games. I said, yeah, if you looked at the poll, you would know this was a coach's poll. I'm not putting it out there. The coaches are. Oh, well, how they going to say it? I said, well, if you look at it, I would trust what coaches are saying, because they're the ones who are actually playing and scouting and looking at the games. They have to know about the teams that they're going to play. Here's a great point. I was at a game last night. I watched El Paso High and Del Valle. Guess who's up there watching the game too? Coach from Hanks. So if I asked him for a coach's poll and it comes down to Del Valle and El Paso, and let's say they're in the rankings, who is he gonna be putting? He's there watching it. Now, this is something that I can speak on because I watched it. But my job was just to get this information in. So I had to, hey man, why don't you put your poll out? Give me your poll and we'll go. Oh, well, I don't do rankings. I ain't seen enough game. Well, man, you need to shut the fuck up. I didn't say it on Twitter because it was 2023. Best believe in 2024, that will be the language. Because if you don't know what the hell you're talking about sometimes, it's okay to just say you don't know and shut the fuck up. But don't try to be talking about shit if you don't really know what you're talking about. I'm sorry, mama. I'm probably going to get a text message or a phone call. Hey, boy, you need to. No, mama be like, hey, that's your show, baby. You say what you want. Yeah, okay, mama, but I still be thinking about you and my aunties and people listening. I don't want them looking like, boy, you sure got a bad mouth. How long you been talking like that? Since I heard y'all when I was about 5 or 6. Since I heard daddy talking. Or my great grandmama who could sling them bad words with the best of them. But yeah, that's low IQ fans. So now I'm gonna move on into why I have a question. This is a couple of questions. Why do defensive backs always laugh when they get caught for a pass interference? If you ever watch it, they get caught and then they kind of smile and laugh like, oh, you got me. And then they complain and say, hey, he was pushing off. No, man, why don't you just play defense? Instead of trying to worry about if they're going to push off, play through the defense and contact. Right? I know it's been skewed because you're giving offensive players greater leeway. You see offensive players push off a lot more to show separation and make catches. Defensive players are put in a bind. But there are techniques that I've seen other defensive players use. And if you know and you study the game and study the route and you know about this particular receiver, you should know how to defend them. Just like they should know how to get around how you do. If you're jamming them on the line, if you're trying to push him more towards the sideline and take away the space that he needs to catch a pass. You're arm fighting with him. You're kind of moving him here. There are a lot of little things that you can do if you study, if you're really studying your opponent. Now, I'm not saying they're not. I'm not going that far, but I just wonder, like, sometimes it's like there's more complaining than trying to figure it out. Like, one play I get, but I've seen games where they were hunting this DB. In like 4 or 5 plays, and he was just bad technique and everything. And they were talking about it, so I didn't know enough to know if it was bad technique because I'm not able to see it. And then they're like, oh yeah, now look, this technique, he wasn't doing this, and this. And it's like, yeah, he needs to get up on this game, man. That's what I'm wanting to see. Just play. Battle, fight. Don't just allow him to do stuff and then you start smiling because, oh man, that wasn't no pass interference. And it's always funny because they get up sometimes and they do the hand signals like no or nope, it wasn't good. Like they had something to do with it, but the pass was like 15 yards over, so it wasn't anything that they had to do. I would rather, you doing that gesturing after you knock the ball down, as opposed to, no, man, he just missed the pass. You didn't have nothing to do with it. But it's just, maybe I'll get some, defensive backs to call me and explain stuff. Because if it's something I'm missing, I will definitely come and say, hey, you know what? I was wrong about that. This is what I was told. I don't have no problem saying it. I'm not going to try to twist it and turn it. I'm just going on what I've seen and what I've heard from people who are in the sport. Now, my next question is, why do you think football is interfering with Christmas? Like, the NBA has always been about Christmas. Now, I get it. Christmas ended on a Monday this year, so you had Monday Night Football. But NFL tends to start putting football in places just because they can, and they know they're going to get the numbers. I think the NBA should start putting games on Thanksgiving. I think they should. You know what I'm saying? They should start putting... Now, you got to have marquee games. You can't just have games where it's like two... 12 and 20 teams and stuff playing. You got to have some marquee games where, and the players, if they're showing up and stuff, you need to make it where it's more entertaining. Maybe you put the in-season tournament during Thanksgiving. Maybe you do that. How about that, NFL? Because, the numbers for the NFL are always bigger, because of the fact that they play less games. It's once a week. In the NBA, there's so many games. Most people don't get as excited about it until the playoffs and stuff. NBA is a global sport. NFL is not. NFL's trying to be global, but they're not as big as the NBA. You can take the most recognized NFL player, and there are some past players that aren't playing anymore that are more recognized than that player. And it's part of it is because football, when they're playing, you don't see the player. You see the face, but you can't really tell who that person is until they take the helmets off. In basketball, you see them. So you get you see the person the whole game. But that's just a question. I enjoyed it. And the greatest thing that I had for Christmas, my Christmas present, was that YouTube allowed me to stream a multi-view game, which was an NFL game on one side and an NBA game on the other side. I was in heaven. They keep doing that. If they allow me to choose the games that I want, I'll pay $600 for the season. No, I'm not. I'm just playing. I ain't trying to pay, that much more. But hey, I'll pay for it if I have a little bit more control and I like it. But sometimes it's hard because you got football on one channel, multiple games, and you got basketball, and it's like, I want to watch these games. So, but lo and behold, I know it's a good thing. It was a little bit more exciting, but it just feels like NFL is just trying to bully NBA. Now, I want to talk about a low IQ play from players, because fans have low IQs, but players make low IQ plays. Now, Detroit, I can't remember. It was a game before they played the Cowboys. Detroit caused a fumble. It was Minnesota. Detroit caused a fumble, and as he caused the fumble, Minnesota's trying to drive. They're down, I think, 3 or 4. They're going to try to score a touchdown. It's, under 2 minutes or something in the game. They sack QB. Ball comes loose. The lineman tries to pick the ball up and run it into the end zone. Instead of just falling and securing the ball and understanding, this is the game. I don't need to score no points. But because he tried to pick up the football, he stumbled, which is what a lot of those big linemen do. He stumbled and he couldn't find his good footing, and he lost the ball and trying to pick it up. Minnesota recovers it, keeps the drive alive. They got all the way down to, I want to say, Detroit's 15 or 20 yard line with a couple of plays left, somewhere in that area. And I want to say it was an interception. I think it was an interception. They finally DB finally intercepted it, and the game was over, right? But it could have went wrong, and they could have scored and beat Detroit. So to me, it was a low IQ play. You see a lot of those, and it's kind of disturbing when you have, athletes playing at the highest level. I could expect it from high schoolers, maybe from college, but once you get into college, to me, it is who you are. But I can't understand why a lineman wouldn't just fall. And I think sometimes some players just have different mindsets. But those mindsets can lead people to think, hey, maybe they're a low IQ player. But it was just interesting. I'm just putting it out there. I hope I might get a call. Hey, man, I don't appreciate you calling me stupid. No, I didn't say you were stupid. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I've learned that from somebody. He says it all the time. And I was like, yeah, don't hear what I'm not saying. I said it was a low IQ play. Now, the fan had a low IQ when it comes to the sport. It didn't mean I was saying the fan was stupid. I might have said that, but it's not what I was meaning. I meant in regards to what he was talking about, all right? During a bowl game, Eastern Michigan player sucker punched a South Alabama player after the game. The game was over. Eastern Michigan lost. South Alabama, it was already after the handshakes, right? It's after the handshakes. Nobody's, talking to each other or anything. South Alabama, what football teams routinely do is they go to the side of their field where their band is. They'll, sing their fight song or wave to their fans as a group, right? Thanking them. And that's what these players were doing. Nobody's attention was anywhere else other than the same part of the field that they were all looking into. All of a sudden, and it's weird because I think the person who was filming was just, happy they was filming their team. And all of a sudden, this player comes out of nowhere and hits the South Alabama player in the back of the head. He didn't even know that nobody knew that this guy was going to do this. So the rest of the teammates grabbed him and they started beating up on him and stuff. Then obviously Eastern Michigan players come in. Now they're not really trying to fight. They're trying to get their player. I don't even think they really understood what was happening. This was caught on film. I felt like it was one of the most atrocious and cowardly plays, man. You got your ass beat. Or I don't even know what the score was. I don't even know if they really gave it to him. But you lose the game. All of that frustration, you should have been taking it out on the playing. You should have been doing better to do what you did. If you're going to get into it with this guy, why not get into it with him right after the game? You're running to find him. Maybe this guy said something that was really bad and inappropriate. I don't know. Maybe that's what he did. And there are certain things that you could say that might just trigger somebody to be like, I don't care what happened. He going to see these hands. But he's going to see these hands after the game. Not when it looks like I'm walking into the tunnel and now I come over there and cold cock you while you're doing something else and you have no thought that this is going to go down. Now, this player turned around and he apologized. He said he called the coach. He called the player. He is deeply sorry for what he did. He apologized to his team. He apologized to the university, the bowl people, everything involved. I get that. I really get that. I commend him for doing it. But I don't think he should. I think there should be more consequences. You got to nip that in the bud. You have to nip that in the bud. Because the thing is younger players see it. And younger kids, they don't know how to always hold their emotions. Obviously, he's not an adult. He's a young adult. But he should be able to control his emotions more than an 11-year-old. You have to send a message that you can't do that, man. You can't do it. If you were going to do it, you should have did it in the game when it happened or right after the game when you're walking up and you're, dapping. You looking for him. Okay, I don't like it then, but I at least respect that a little bit more than what you did while this guy's celebrating and stuff. And he could have seriously hurt this guy. I mean, seriously hurt this guy. So I think it was a bad look. Bad. I don't know. I know they're gonna discipline. I don't know if this was his last year. But yeah, and I commend the guy for coming out and apologizing. He said and did all the right things. I think it was a moment where something snapped and he lost it. I'd like to get more into why you chose that moment to run across the field when he wasn't turning around saying anything to you, because it wasn't like they caught it right when he ran up. There was about a good 5 to 10 seconds with them celebrating and looking. And then all of a sudden you watch the video and you're just like, well, why are we watching this? And then all of a sudden, after like 5 or 10 seconds, it could have been longer, this guy runs over and he hits him. So it wasn't like he turned around and said something to him and then turned back around. Even if he did that, there's still no reason for you to run over there. But unless there's a different angle, there was nothing said to him. So I think it was bad. I think it was real bad. And I feel like we need to get a hold of these things, because it really needs to be dealt with. Got to get a hold of it, man. Because kids are looking. I see kids doing stuff in these games. The sportsmanship is starting to become bad. I'm going to talk about that in another episode. I'm going to talk about that. Last thing I want to know is, when are we going to stop with the receipts? I kept receipts. You had a good game. You had a phenomenal game. Yeah, I kept receipts on all of y'all that was saying I couldn't play. Well, technically, people probably weren't saying you couldn't play. Well, there are probably some low IQ fans that was out there saying, oh, he can't play. Most people are probably saying, man, you really stunk up the joint. You really had a bad game. You got to do better. And that's constructive criticism. If you keep it to the game, if you're able to tell a player, look, man, you're not seeing things. You're not yourself right now. Have a Snickers bar or whatever it is. But, we can tell this. You've been producing. You didn't produce. You had a bad game. Suck it up. Stop thinking everybody's supposed to be for you all the time. If you got to be able to call people out. You got to be able to call. I could get called out on something I said on this podcast. I got to own it and take it. Like, yeah, you know what, you're right. Maybe I might say, no, I'm never wrong. Who knows? But we got to stop with that, because then if you don't produce for the next 4 games, can we produce receipts then? Can we say, yeah, yo, man, last 4 games, you was talking about how good you did that game, and last 4 games, you've been horrible. I got receipts. It's got to be good both ways. That's the spirit of competition. Getting dunked on and being told you too small, I got to take that. Yeah, I am small. It's not like, okay, yeah, you dunked on me, but you do know I know that I'm small, right? You do know I know that. So then I come down and I hit a 3 in your face. Yeah, you too slow. Well, now you got to take that. You dunked on me and it was really nice. I hit a 3 in your face. I'll trade a 2 for a 3 every. If you want to dunk on me 6 times and I get to hit 5 or 6 threes, I'm still up by 3 to 4 points. So, what do you want? No, not 3 to 4 points. 3 to 6 points. Damn, my math is off. I must be still full of that Welch's sparkling grape juice or something. My math is off. But in any case, you get what I'm saying. So it's about competition. No, trash talking is fine, man, but you got to keep it in perspective. And you got to stop thinking, some of y'all players got to stop thinking that the world is against you just because we call you out. Right? And for the people calling them out, you got to make sure that you're calling them out in terms of NFL or professional sports. You can't say, man, you're a bum. I could beat you in basketball. Dog, come on now. Do you know what an NFL or NBA player, how strong, how their body is? The 15th person on the NBA team, the 48th person on the depth chart of a NFL team can wipe the floor with you. That's just real. So get it out your head. And let's stop with all of these receipts, man. Just play ball. Stop thinking that you have 12 bad games, then you have one and you say you kept receipts. Then you have another 12 bad games. So you 1 for 24 in good games. Yeah, come on, man. Let's stop with that. All right, so let me get on to my basketball ideology. So I did a clinic last week, and I'm going to be doing another one this week. I call it Get Them Handles, right? So when I had the kids in there and I put on there and I told the kids at the beginning, look, we're going to go through a set of things, different things that you should know. And the thing is, a lot of you are going to struggle. Everybody in this class, I don't care if you can dribble the ball, you're going to struggle at some point with what we're doing. So some of the kids that could dribble, I was getting on them about, no, don't just dribble, handle it. Fast, tight, work on the speed, work on the power and the strength. They struggled. Obviously, I had a lot of younger kids who thought they could dribble and, they could dribble, but they can't handle the ball. I had to explain to them the difference between dribbling the ball is you're just bouncing it. Handling the ball means that you basically have that ball on the string. Nobody's going to take that ball away from you. You can do whatever you want with the basketball without fear of losing it or without fear of somebody taking it, whether it's one person or two people. Hell, even three people. You're not going to lose the ball. So that's why it was called Get Them Handles. And we did some different concepts and, really tried to open their eyes to being commanding the dribble when you're dribbling the ball. Command of your dribble is to me having handles. You can do what you want. And a lot of kids struggled, but like I told them, I don't mind. You're going to struggle, so we're okay, but just keep at it. Keep working. And some of those kids seem to find, a little flow and some pace with some of the drills. And, by the end, some of these kids were looking a lot better. There was some that was like, okay, yeah, we you might need to contact me about some private lessons or something, so we can work on it. And sometimes the reason I put down on there, not for beginners, even though I had fourth and up. Now, obviously, you're going to have some fourth graders, but I train fourth graders that play city ball, fourth and fifth graders. They can dribble the ball. I'm talking about a kid that doesn't know how to dribble. When you put them in there and you don't know how to dribble, you're struggling on everything. It's really hard to get these kids to be able to learn something when they don't know what they're doing and it's incorrect, and you have to correct them, but you got to keep the thing moving. And that's the thing about clinics or camps. I kind of have to be vanilla with, there are certain ways that I can, work with a person for 5 minutes, on different things. But for the most part, you just kind of keep it going. And some of those kids were like, they just realized how bad they were and how much work they needed. So I was really, pleased with letting them know that there was a difference, and hopefully they take something from it. And, I think I'm going to have some of the same kids in this one. I'm going to probably have a few new ones. So that's great. I can't wait to be able to do the same thing and say, hey, this is some different concepts. I think I tweaked the stuff that I'm going to do. I'm going to probably add a few other things just so people who came to the last one will be like, oh, he did this and this one. This is going to be a little bit different. Okay. So it was a good camp. It was a very good clinic. I really liked it, and I can't wait for the next one. But there is a difference between dribbling and handling the ball. All right. Next thing I'm going to talk about is when you watch basketball and you watch kids shooting, a lot of times, and this is something that new players and sometimes, more experienced players have happened to them. And I want to say I've talked about this. I'm getting old. So if I did and you heard it, forgive me, but I'm just going to mention it again. You have to decide, you have to know there are certain areas of the court where you want to look at using the backboard on your shot. And if you're not going to use the backboard, you need to know that you're going to not use the backboard before you get up to go shoot it. Because there is a couple of areas where you'll see players shoot, and the way the ball hits, if you ask them, and I do ask all of my kids whenever this happens, were you one to shoot off the backboard or shoot straight, or were you not sure? And they'll tell me I wasn't sure. If you shoot from the corner, you're shooting for the goal. From the front, you're shooting from the goal. But there's two areas where you can use the backboard or you can shoot it straight. So what I tell players is when you're in these areas, as you're going, you need to know if you're going to this area, whether you're going to go off the glass or you're going to shoot it straight before you go up. Don't wait till you're there. Now you're trying to think which one, and that's what makes that shot go the way it does. It always goes weird. It hits the rim flat, So it looks bad a lot of times, and that you could tell that it's because they weren't sure where they were going to shoot. But there is that area, so I do work with the kids, and hey, look, we're gonna do 15, 20 shots. And these are going to all be off the backboard. Okay, we're going to do another 15, 20 shots, and these are going to be straight. Now, you're going to have to figure out how you felt and which one you felt more comfortable with. So when you're in this spot, in this area, this is how you need to shoot the ball without thinking. And it does help because it's weird because you don't think about it until you're going up and you're like, should I shoot it off the glass or should I shoot it straight? And it happened to me. I mean, it's happened to everybody, I would say at one point, because everybody, when they're playing, maybe not, if you went through it, then you tend to know. But at one point I'd be shocked if every player that didn't play basketball didn't say, yeah, it happened to me once. So, yeah, you got to make sure you know. Last thing I'm going to cover is different ways to use the spin move. And the reason I'm saying this is because we're out working with a kid, who could dribble a ball. He could dribble it. And we were working on spin moves. He struggles with spin moves. But he struggles with it because he didn't know that there are certain variations of the spin move. It's kind of a slow turn. There's a regular turn. But the most important part of the spin move is the ball placement. The ball placement can sometimes be a little bit different depending on the circumstance. If you're kind of really in front of a person, you can kind of keep that ball a little bit more in your right hand as you're spinning out in front. Okay? If that person's a little bit on the side of you as you're spinning, you don't want to put it in front because they're right there. You want to put the ball more to your left side. Okay. As you turn, you can't turn small because somebody might try to reach around you and hit the ball. You got to keep your elbow tighter. You can't have it out. So, it's different positions of the ball of the floor that you want to try to hit the ball on as you're bouncing it within the spin move. And I've had kids come in that could do the spin move, but then when you start to do some high level stuff with them using the spin move, they struggle because they're all trying to do the same type of spin move. And I have to tell them, look, there is a spin move, but when in the spin move, there are different variations. Just like crossover, just like between the legs, just like behind the back. There are different variations. Some variations are going to be, you might have 4 or 5 variations, and some you might just have 2. But you're going to have different ways that you can do stuff. So it was interesting because, kid didn't really understand it. But as we went through it and he started to feel it and see it for himself, he understood it. And he was like, oh. And it's always funny when they say, oh, okay, like that light bulb goes off, right? And they really understand what and why. and how you tell them. And then they say they use it in the game, and this kid tried to do this, and that what happened. So, yeah, so just so people know that there are different ways to spin move, different variations, height, speed, not speed, but height of how you dribble, and ball placement as you're spinning. So, this will be all for today. This was a longer than what I usually go, but I had so much that was on my mind, man. It's been like 2 weeks, I think, since I did a podcast. So it was a lot that happened. So I wanted to make sure I got it off my mind, because I didn't want to be talking about stuff 2 weeks from now. And it's like, yo, man, that shit happened like a year ago, which it really did. But when you say it, it sounds funny. Like, man, that was last year. Man, that was only 2 days ago. We're only on the 1st of January, and I'm talking about something that happened on the 30th of December. So, but yeah, I didn't want to wait too long. So, hopefully I didn't put anybody to sleep. Hopefully these were engaging topics. And, if you have some comments on stuff, always hit me. 2024, we're looking at doing some exciting stuff. I know I mentioned that things were coming. I've just been really busy. I got a lot of things coming up. My schedule should start to free up a little bit more, and we'll see if we can get some things going. So I'm gonna end it like I've always ended it, from year to year, from day to day, from workout to workout, from podcast to podcast. If it was easy, everyone would do it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports, okay, that's a bet.